Welcome to Dogsthorpe Infant School LaunchPad.
This is your captain speaking. We've been cleared for departure.
Okay, Eddie, start the countdown.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Let's go.
This podcast is brought to you by Eddie Edster, the Dogsthorpe Infant School Wellbeing Dog.
Welcome back to Eddie's LaunchPad. It's the Dogsthorpe Infant School podcast for parents, teachers and schools. Now, last week we were talking to Mark Anderson. He's got a book in his hand, but I'm thinking it's Al's book, is it?
Mr. Kingsley's first secret EdTech diary.
Yeah, there you go, you see, folks. So have a look at that. He's talking about that on one of our LaunchPads. We'll make sure that all of the links to all the things that we've been talking about both last week and this week are in the text of the podcast that you're listening to now, so that you're just one click away from these great guys and all these wonderful resources. Right, Mark, last week we were talking about EdTech in general. First of all, before we get on talking about your book, I want us to talk about AI. AI is moving closer and closer towards, well, it's already there in education, and people see it in different ways, don't they, Mark?
Absolutely they do, yeah. If you watch something on Netflix like Friends or Big Bang Theory or whatever sort of series, it will know, or The Crown or whatever. My mum, for example, loves sort of royal dramas and things. You know, so she's got, you know, she watched, I added her to my Netflix account recently, so she watched The Crown, and then lo and behold, things like Downton Abbey kept getting suggested for her, because they're very similar, you know, Poldark, so forth and so on. There's AI behind, machine learning behind, which is a form of AI, behind the scenes, which, you know, learns from the actions that you take and then tries to support and help you. And so it's a really good in to explaining how AI is already in our lives and all these different things. And it can massively, massively help. A product I've been trialing recently, and I was going to wave it in front of me here, although you won't see it because this is just an audio recording, but I'm holding up in my hand right now what is essentially a posh sort of presentation clicker. But it looks more like, as you'll agree, Dave, it looks more like a traditional remote control, doesn't it?
TV handset, yeah.
Yeah. This is what I would say the closest thing to having a magic wand in your classroom is at the moment.
Right.
And this is a tool called Merlyn Origin. Merlyn Mind is the company behind it. And it does lots and lots of different things. But the best thing it does, the best feature on it, if you'll see just here,
yeah.
Can you see the icon that's just there?
Yeah.
It's a microphone. Now, many of you will have smart TVs, and your remote controls for your TVs will have buttons
the microphone,
on like that.
Yeah, mine does.
So you can say, you know, Alexa, open Netflix and go to The Crown or whatever. My mum has mobility issues too. She loves these sort of things that help her around the place. She uses it for similar reasons as you do, Dave. And so what's lovely about this piece of equipment here, it uses AI in their own in-house safe for children to use AI. And I can say, I won't press the button, but I can say, open Google Drive and go to my photosynthesis presentation for year 4. And it will go to that presentation and it will open that presentation for me.
Wow.
Go to slide 7.
Wow.
So on top of that, as I'm sort of delivering my lesson, this inquisitive cheeky chappy from the back of my classroom, Dave, he says, what's this word here? Chlorophyll? What is chlorophyll? And their own AI tool opens up on the screen and explains what chlorophyll is, gives links to it, explains it, puts teaching and learning resources in there for you, all the rest of it. AI is and can be a massively supportive tool for teachers in education. It is, you know, useful in so many ways. And generative AI, which is again another form of AI, is one which helps us create resources in lots and lots of different ways. Generative AI often works through either a voice interface. There's a great free app. Listeners, if you're looking to explore and experience some AI yourself on your phone, there's a great free app called Pi, P-I. Search for it on the App Store on your iPhone or on your iPad or on the Play Store on your Chrome device. Sorry, not your Chrome device, your Android device. And have a little play around with it. You can have conversations with it and talk to it. It's absolutely amazing. And actually, my mum, talking about things like rheumatoid arthritis and what have you, she uses Pi herself to have conversations with it and to give her exercises to help her with her arthritis in her hands. All right, it's absolutely amazing. The generative AI helps us create resources, and normally through a text interface. So the generative AI tool that most people will have heard of, it's been so big in the news, is ChatGPT. Other ones are available, like Claude or Gemini or Perplexity, or there are many others. Okay, but the one people will be aware of is ChatGPT. And you can use that as a teacher to help you create lesson plans. You can use it to help you analyze data. You can use it to help you create quizzes, low-stakes quizzes, multiple choice quizzes, all sorts of amazing things. It will take transcripts from YouTube videos and make resources for you from someone else's content. There are also other generative AI apps that enable you to create other things, like images. OpenAI, who made ChatGPT, have got a tool called DALL-E. And DALL-E works in lots of other products. So Canva, you'll have heard of, uses DALL-E in the background. Microsoft have got a product called Microsoft Designer. You might have seen some of those lovely Lego minifigures or Funko Pop designs and things where people's names are written on them, all made using AI. And just through a simple prompt, create me a Lego minifigure of a man who looks like this outside Starbucks with a lovely little cockapoo or a spaniel or whatever, right? Lo and behold, the image appears. I was using a tool just this week as well called Udio. I think it's udiomusic.com. Create me a trance banger with the following lyrics. Okay, maybe I can make one with and for you for the podcast, Dave. You can put in your own bespoke lyrics. AI will make amazing, professional sounding music with the lyrics you want, sung by AI, sounding like real people.
Incredible.
It's amazing.
Mm.
But if you remember from the last episode of LaunchPads, I mentioned, just because we can do something with technology doesn't necessarily mean that we should.
Mm.
And so it's really important to use these things, okay, but be using them for purposes which best support and help in three sort of key areas. And I've always shared this. We mentioned EdTech, and we've led on to AI. AI for me is just another type of EdTech.
Mm.
And if you want to get the best out of your use of EdTech, there are three key areas I sort of say to focus on. The first one is, ask yourself the question, will this help me with my teaching? If it does, then probably consider using it. The other question is, will it help children with their learning? If it combines those two things, then that's even better, right? The third thing to think about is, because sometimes it's not linked to teaching or learning, right? But teachers are so time poor, it's an important question to ask, which is, will this help reduce my workload? And so when you're thinking about these AI tools, and, ChatGPT is the prime example, it can help me with my workload because it can create resources really, really quickly and to a very high standard. It can also help me with my teaching. There are ways in which we can use AI as well, particularly through the use of creating your own little chatbots to support children with their learning in the classroom. So answering those sort of three key areas is really important. But there are some issues. There are issues around things like data privacy. There are issues around children cheating. My own children use it to cheat on their homework. They use a platform called Sparks Maths in their school, and the platform presents maths problems, and they're supposed to answer them on the platform. For my children, they're my children, right? So they're pretty proficient with technology, and they use a split screen, and they'll take a screenshot of the maths problem. They'll pop it in ChatGPT and say, answer this, and then it comes up and gives them the answer, and they go back onto the platform and they pop it in. Hence the reason why I need to keep quite a close eye on my children when they're doing their work. But it can create really convincing things. A lot of people have discovered that in a traditional exam scenario, AI can answer questions, to a very high standard, achieving some of the best grades possible. But your children in your classroom, how they interact in your classroom. If Dave suddenly goes from being someone who struggles with maths to being someone who's really adept at maths at home, but still struggles in school, then your teacher's spidey, tingly senses will be going off and firing. You'll be mindful of that. But also, then it also begs a question about thinking about how you and what you set for homework or activities in the class. Could you not set a task which couldn't be completed by AI? I think children are going to be using AI whatever. So actually, it's more important to teach them how to use it responsibly. Let them use it like you would use it as a teacher. Let it inform you. Let it help you answer questions, but don't let it answer the question. I use AI every day with my work now, and I write an awful lot on my blog and in different ways and so forth and so on. And I'll pop things into ChatGPT and I say, how could I improve this? What have I missed? How can I make this better? And it helps me. It doesn't write it for me. It's just there as my own sort of expert PA. I've trained mine. It knows lots of my knowledge. I've put my book into ChatGPT, so it knows all my knowledge. It can really help me when I'm time poor to not miss a beat or miss a thing when I want to make sure I can do something really good and productive and helpful. Going back to that idea of data privacy as well, it's very clear from things around data protection and GDPR and all those sort of things, Dave. These different platforms learn from what we enter into it.
Okay? Yeah, they do.
And so, children have rights. And so we can't be putting in children's personal data onto these platforms. So just like my children take a screenshot of a maths problem I pop it in, we could take a screenshot of a spreadsheet of a set of results for children in our class and just pop it in and say, analyze this, create a graph to do the other, all the rest of it. And it will do it, but we shouldn't do it because we shouldn't be putting children's personal data on. So it's not about not using it, it's about using it in the right way. So you can anonymize the data. You can put student 1, student 2, student 3, for example. You could just take the screenshot without including children's names. So you can use these tools for these sort of things. But again, being mindful of data privacy is really important. And you very kindly talked about my resources. My blog, which has won a few awards, on there I created with a friend of mine, Laura Knight. She's, or was until recently, the head of digital at Berkhamsted Independent School. And she's also the chair of the Independent School Council's Digital Strategy Board. And she and I worry about schools who were rushing to and wanting to use AI, and absolutely they should be. They really, really should be. But making sure that teachers and schools do these things in the right way. We've got a moral duty and a legal duty to make sure that we're using technology properly and safely, and being mindful of things like GDPR and what have you. And so she and I wrote a free template policy, AI policy for schools. So if you go to my blog, ictevangelist.com/blog, you'll find I've pinned it in there as well. It's been really helpful for people. But it's a free AI policy. It's not going to do it for you, but it's a great launch pad. You can change, there's sort of parentheses around bits that you just need to tweak and change for yourself. Add in your own content to make it context aware, as it were, to your setting, because obviously it needs to be done for your particular setting. It's important that we do these things in the right way. But no, absolutely, we should be using these things. But it is scary. And, McKinsey did some research. People who use, independent teachers, they said people who use AI tend to be 40% more efficient than those who don't use AI.
Right.
And so if you're not using AI, then you're not going to be as effective as everyone else who is. And so, I can well see a time, I don't apply for teaching jobs much these days, but I can well bet, because I certainly advise my head teachers to be asking these questions, how are you using AI to help you with your work? And so teachers who use AI will keep on getting their jobs and be more effective and efficient and able to do far more as a result of them using AI. If they're not, then you're really missing a trick.
Now, one of the things that struck me as you was explaining all that, and I too sort of have this little argument going on in my head about AI. I can see the benefits. I can also see other issues like, people not writing their own essays, but I'm guessing that teachers will spot if their vocabulary changes, and it's being astute, as you very wisely pointed out. I remember many, many years ago when Fiat brought out the Strada. The Fiat Strada, and me and my dad was having a cup of coffee in a coffee shop, and on the bus, on the side of a bus stop, was this huge poster of the Fiat Strada, and it had on the words on it, hand built by robots and silenced by a laser. So because they were just bringing in about using automation in car building, and my dad said to me, "Well, there goes all the car building jobs." You know, he said, there's the number of people that they employ at that time, British Leyland and all that sort of things were going. He said, Rover, British Leyland, they employ loads of people. He said, now if they have these robots, that'll go. And when you got your little gizmo out and you was asking it questions, I thought to myself, oh, I wonder how many teachers will listen to this and think, well, that's my day's numbered. Does that mean I'm going to be replaced by this, whatever it is in the corner of the room?
It's a great question. Will teachers be replaced by AI? It's not unlikely. Historically, teachers would have been the sage on the stage, and they stand at the front of the classroom. I mean, I don't know what it was like in your school, but in my school, teachers, there was like a little raised platform in every classroom.
Yeah, little dais. Yeah, there was little dais that they would stand on.
So they could stand on it, so they could even be that much more, domineering it from the front of the class, standing and talking at you.
It's not like that now, listeners. It's not like that now.
The skill of a teacher comes from those guide on the side, think about and know about, how to support a number of children that are in the classroom. But we're already seeing some tools that can do these sort of things as well. So there's a free tool from Microsoft, which comes with inside Microsoft Teams, although you can use it as a standalone product. Now, if you're a parent listening and want to try this out with your own children, you can do, just Google it. They've got this product called Reading Progress, which has also got Reading Coach attached to it. And so what teachers can do is set an assignment in Microsoft Teams for children, and they choose a piece of writing. And there's a whole library of different pieces of writing that children can be set to read. And you can do it by Lexile range. Lexile range is the child's reading age, essentially. You can equally, though, upload your own PDFs. So if I've written a book as a teacher, or I've used AI to help me write a story, or if I've just written it myself, or a Word file, I can put those in and get the children to read that. What the tool asks children to do is to read to camera the text. And you can ask the tool to be checking for things like pronunciation, fluency, pauses, ers, ums, gaps, all these different things. You can tick all the boxes, some of them, one of them, doesn't really matter. At the end, Reading Progress will tell you on the dashboard how every child has done on their reading. If you then utilize Reading Coach, Coach will actually go back and coach your children on the things that the child has struggled with. So let's say they've struggled to pronounce Pacific and been saying specific. It'll get them to repeat it. That's freely available right now in schools that have got Microsoft ecosystem within their school. AI sits behind the scenes on things like Duolingo already, for example, and working in a similar sort of coaching way. But again, the power of the teacher is going to be in the ability to have their subject expertise and know all these different things, but how to work with the individual. Because in relationships, as you'll know, are the cornerstone of everything. Many people have done a lot of research. Taking John Hattie as an example, he found that a strong triangulation of support between school and home helps student progress. AIs yet won't pick up on things. They'll list the AI is listening. The videos for you to watch back as a teacher is not picking up visual cues. So medium to long term, we're fine. But it's going to be a case, and this is why it's important to sort of teach young people about AI, how to use it, how to use it responsibly, all these different things. If we want children to be able, we talk about this idea, don't we, Dave, about children being prepared for jobs that don't exist yet, and all these different, those soft skills, which aren't soft actually, but about communication, collaboration, creativity, all these different things. Well, those are the things that set us apart from machine. Okay, and so I listened to a really interesting piece of comedy recently, and I'm getting to see this person speak, Mhairi Aitkin. And she spoke at the Edinburgh Fringe, and she talked about a relationship, and she'd broken up with a quite over domineering partner called Alexa. Brilliant sort of sketch. And then she talked about all the important things behind it, around data privacy and sharing of information and so forth and so on. It was a really interesting take on all of it. But I think, it's important that young people learn about these things, digital citizenship, how to write a good prompt, right? In order to get good outputs from something I share. I talk IT and computing for many years, as you know, Dave, and there's this premise that we teach young people, which is GIGO, GIGO, and it stands for garbage in, garbage out. And the premise behind it is the quality of any output you get from a computer system is only ever as good as what you put into it in the first place. And so, when we first started seeing ChatGPT being used more and more and more, I talked about how, literacy, digital literacy, yes, but literacy full stop, has never been so important. We need to know how to write. And as these systems become more and more used through voice, is me stammering and stuttering trying to explain things. I'm not doing a very good example here, am I? But, practicing oracy, practicing literacy, these things have never been so important for us as humans. If we want to engage with these systems and get the best outputs from them as we possibly want, then we need to be really fluent. We need to be great with our speech as well as our writing. Will AI replace us? In many ways, it will replace some aspects. But thinking about that example of the car manufacturing factory, the people working along the production line, my dad was one of those. He was a precision engineer. He worked on the Challenger 2 tanks. He worked on parts for Ferrari, all these different things. But as automation came in, it did speed up production and all these different things. But then it needed people with other skills to come along and make sure the machines are working, making sure they're updated. Our software at NetSupport, people don't often know this, but BMW use our software to help manage their production line.
Oh, really?
And the robots and all this sort of stuff, right? So, it's not about throwing a baby out with the bathwater. It's about thinking about those other skills that are going to be needed in order to survive, and not just survive, but thrive in this futuristic world where AI will be supporting and complementing what we do.
Well, there we are, listeners. There's a little thing for you to reflect on with AI. If you've got your own views about AI, get in touch with us. We're always happy to hear from you. We're on all the social media networks. If you want to come on and talk about one of our Launchpad shows, you are more than welcome. I'm conscious of time, Mark. We're moving towards the close of another Launchpad. Thank you. Before you go, thank you for sharing your time with us today and your expertise. It's wonderful. We'd like to get you back on the show again in the coming academic year. That would be really nice to have you back on, because there's so many things that we could talk about. We're only scratching the surface, really. But before you go, you've got a new book coming out. Would you like to share a little bit about that?
Oh, thank you. That's very kind of you. Yeah, and if you wanted to sort of turn off at this point, don't. But the book's called the EdTech Playbook, and the idea behind it is to it's a sort of a book of 3 parts. So at the beginning, we talk about teaching and learning and research and what works, and linking that to technology. The middle section looks at case studies for different subjects. So there's a chapter on English, math, science, humanities, so forth and so on. And the final section of the book explores the important things around digital citizenship, data protection, online safety, how to work with technology companies, all these sorts of things. Written with Ollie Lewis, who was a former digital transformation lead at the Thomas Deacon Education Trust, not too far from your good selves.
No, it's around the corner.
Now deputy head academic in Abu Dhabi, so he's travelling a bit. If you visit edtechplaybook.co.uk, you can find out lots and lots of information around the book and where you can get it from. You can pre-order it now on Amazon. Just look for EdTech Playbook and Anderson, you'll probably find it. And if you're looking for other sort of general resources, one of the resources I didn't share today, and I'm mindful of time, so I'll be quick, but if you're looking for some prompts to help you with resources, go to my blog, again, ictevangelist.com/blog. All my resources that I have there are available free. You don't have to pay anything. They're not behind an email sort of firewall or sort of paywall, as it were. Sorry, not firewall, paywall. And I've got a little book in there which is completely free, Dave, called The Little Book of Generative AI Prompts. And so if you're a teacher looking to sort of get your feet wet, as it were, and have a little play around with how things like ChatGPT or Gemini from Google can help you with your teaching and your student learning and resource creation and those sort of things, have a little butchers, as it were, at that little book of generative AI prompts. It'll be really useful. So there you go. Thank you, Dave. Thank you for the opportunity. Thank you for listening as well.
Thank you, Mark. Keep in touch, and when the book's out, I'm gonna pre-order it this afternoon. And when the book's out, perhaps you'd like to come back on and we can discuss the book and other things that we've not had chance to touch over the last 2 weeks.
Great stuff. Listen, thank you so much for the invite, Dave. It's been lovely chatting to you. Thank you, and see you later, Eddie.
You have been listening to the Dogsthorpe Infant School podcast. Join Captain Dave and his co-pilot Eddie Edster, the well-being dog, on another LaunchPad soon. Until then, always remember to be kind, be respectful, and most of all, dream, believe, and shine. Dogsthorpe Infant School is part of Hampton Academies Trust.